Now let's talk about the cholinergic drugs. Now, what are the cholinergic drugs? Cholinergic drugs are drugs which produce actions similar to that of acetylcholine. So, the drugs which produce actions that are similar to acetylcholine are called cholinergic drugs. And cholinergic drugs are further divided into two types. One is cholinergic agonists, another is anticholinesterases. Okay. So, what are cholinergic agonists? Cholinergic agonists actually are the drugs which directly act on the receptors, directly act on the cholinergic receptors. So, drugs which produce actions similar to that of acetylcholine by directly interacting with cholinergic receptors are the cholinergic agonists. Now, what are the anticholinesterases? These drugs also produce actions similar to acetylcholine, but they do this effect by a different way. Okay, so anticholinesterases are drugs which produce actions similar to that of acetylcholine by increasing availability of acetylcholine at receptor sites. Okay, so anticholinesterases mainly inhibit the enzyme acetylcholine esterase. So the breakdown of acetylcholine is prevented and acetylcholine can act on its receptor for a prolonged duration of action. Okay. Now let's come to the classification of cholinergic drugs. As I have said, one is cholinergic agonists, which we call here the direct acting drug, and the anticholinesterases, which are the indirect acting drugs. Okay, so the direct acting drugs, these are the drugs which directly bind with the cholinergic receptors and stimulate them. So here it binds with the receptors. Okay, they are similar to acetylcholine both structurally and functionally. So they are structurally and functionally similar to acetylcholine, and this class can be subdivided into esters and alkaloids. You can see some examples here: acetylcholine, methacholine, carbachol, bathonicol, etc. These are esters, and muscarine, pilocarpine, these are alkaloids. Okay, now come to the indirect acting drugs, which we also call the anticholinesterases. Okay, so these drugs do not directly bind with acetylcholine receptors. They do not bind directly with the receptors. They inhibit acetylcholinesterase enzymes and protect acetylcholine from breakdown. So the endogenous acetylcholine activity is increased. Okay, so their action on their receptors is increased and it is prolonged. Okay, and these anticholinesterases can be further divided into two subtypes. One is reversible, another is irreversible. So reversible drugs usually bind with weak bonds with the enzyme, and the enzyme can be retrieved without much effort. For example, physostigmine, neostigmine, pyridostigmine, etc. And there are some irreversible anticholinesterases. So drugs which usually bind with strong covalent bonds, with the enzyme, and the enzymes are damaged permanently. For that reason, these drugs are not called drugs. These are called poisons or toxins. Okay. For example, organophosphorus compounds like malathion, ecothiophat, and there is another group that is carbamate like carbaryl, propoxur, etc. Okay. Now come to an important question: what are the pharmacological actions of acetylcholine? So acetylcholine, as you know, it has two types of receptors. One is muscarinic, another is nicotinic. So it has two types of actions. One is muscarinic actions, another is nicotinic actions. So let's look at the muscarinic actions. On the heart, it has an inhibitory effect. So it decreases the heart rate. Acetylcholine decreases the heart rate. This occurs by inhibiting the SA node and AV node. And this is very important, that acetylcholine does not have actions on cardiac force of contractions, because M2 receptors are not present on the ventricular muscle. Okay, and these actions are mediated via M2 receptors. Now on blood vessels, it causes vasodilation by releasing EDRF, that is endothelium derived relaxing factor. Okay, and on GIT, it increases tone and peristalsis and relaxes the sphincters, so that leads to evacuation of bowel, and excessive release of acetylcholine may lead to diarrhea, abdominal cramps, etc. Okay, now on ureter and urinary bladder, it causes bladder evacuation. Okay, and excessive release of acetylcholine can lead to increased frequency of micturition, increased volume maybe. Okay, now lungs. On lungs, it has constrictive effect, so it causes bronchoconstriction or bronchospasm and increases bronchial secretions. Okay, so this is very hazardous in asthmatic patients. Now on glands, in different exocrine glands, it has stimulatory effect, so secretions from sweat, salivary and lacrimal glands will increase. On eye, it causes meiosis by contraction of circular muscle of iris, and it also increases aqueous outflow by ciliary muscle contraction. Now come to its nicotinic effects. What are its nicotinic effects? You know that acetylcholine receptors, that means nicotinic receptors, are present at the autonomic ganglia and on skeletal muscle. So on autonomic ganglia, it causes stimulation, so unopposed nicotinic actions lead to tachycardia and rise in blood pressure because stimulation of sympathetic ganglia, and there is release of catecholamines. Okay, that means if you give atropine and block the muscarinic effects of acetylcholine, and there is unopposed nicotinic action, so that means that will stimulate the autonomic ganglia, and on stimulating that autonomic ganglia, that will release catecholamines, and catecholamines will lead to increase in blood pressure. Okay, and on skeletal muscles, it causes contraction of skeletal muscles. Now come to the clinical uses of cholinergic agonists, where we can use these drugs. We can use these drugs on open angle glaucoma. For example, pilocarpine is used mainly. Then non-obstructive urinary retention, where there is no obstruction in urinary blood flow, but there is urinary retention. So you know that acetylcholine increases the frequency of micturition, it causes bladder evacuation. So in case of postpartum or post-surgical bladder retention or urinary retention, we can use these drugs. For example, bethanicol, we can use bethanicol for that, and we can use these drugs for diagnostic purpose as well. For example, diagnosis of hyperreactive bronchial tree in bronchial asthma, and the drug used for this is methacholine. Now another question, that as acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter, it has different actions, very important actions, still it is not used as a drug. The question comes that why acetylcholine is not used as a drug. The reasons behind these are, number one, that acetylcholine has a very short half-life because it is rapidly hydrolyzed by acetylcholinesterase enzymes. After binding with the receptors, it produces effects, and very soon it is hydrolyzed by acetylcholinesterase enzyme. And then it has diffuse action. Okay, so if given exogenously, it will activate the whole cholinergic system, Therefore, a specific therapeutic goal, okay, that cannot be achieved, or that is very difficult to achieve. And another reason is that acetylcholine is highly water soluble, so it cannot cross the blood brain barrier, so it is not suitable for uh, using orally, or it is not suitable where we need to cross the blood brain barrier. So